Hello, I'll be your guide through ancient Egypt, and I'll guide you through the Duat. This is the geography of Egypt. Egypt was in the middle of in between the It's the world's oldest civilization. These are the homes of the Egyptian peasants. When you open the door, you'll see a courtyard. You'll also see a main floor area that's small. You'll see there's a ramp. There's also a second floor and a roof. The peasants don't really have to make their homes big and nice, so they look pretty. The peasants do the best they can decorating the inside of the home. So sometimes the peasants will sleep on the roof, but mostly they'd sleep inside. Here is a community of peasant homes. There are alleyways. Some homes are even built into the walls of the rock. This is the remains of one home of the Egyptians. Peasants. The homes of the noble. Noble people lived in huge fancy houses along the Nile River called villas. Some villas were built with either white limestone or regular stone. A lot of nobles used sun-dried bricks because there was a lot of mud near the Nile River, and also because stone was more difficult to cut and build with. The homes built by the Egyptian nobles were similar and different to modern houses in design. They were similar in that there were guest rooms, bathrooms, storage rooms, kids' rooms, and the family rooms. They also had front and back doors with ramps. Unlike our homes today, noble homes had more rooms, almost over 30 rooms, actually. Something else that was different were the doors. They were 4 feet off the ground and reached by ramps. So the nobles can get in without and not worry about having sand in their house. How did the Egyptians travel on land? Most Egyptians would travel by foot. Higher up people like officials or soldiers got to use chariots. The ancient Egyptians were one of the first civilizations to use a wheel. The chariots would have wooden wheels. However, they were harder to use on rough terrain. Chariots were used in war. How did the Egyptians travel on water? Egyptians used the Nile for transportation. Egyptians would sail on the Nile to get to different parts of Egypt. The Nile River would be packed with lots of boats. There would be big boats for transportation, up and down the Nile River. Traders used the Nile River to travel on. The Nile River was also good for fishing. The end. The rich people wore fancy clothing made of fine linen, which was a flax plant fiber. This was a difficult process because all the steps involved. They would have to use a flax comb to comb off all the flax heads. They would then need to put it in a bucket of water, then mash down on the fibers so they can separate the stalks from the fibers. Then they have to comb it again in order to spin the line. I'll circle the items in here. That's a spinner. That's the flax plant. Well, more so that's the spindle. There's another picture of the spindle. And there's the flax comb. Here's the spinner. Oh yeah. These are some of the things the wealthy people could wear and then Egyptian kings and queens could wear. Exotic foods and drinks of Egypt. These would be the foods and drinks of Egypt. Egyptians would make bread from barley dough. It was hard, and sometimes grit got in from the grinding process, and it made the dough harder to chew. The Egyptians would lose their teeth faster when they were eating the bread. Their teeth wore away faster anyways. The Egyptians would grow many grapes in the north, and they would use them for eating and for making wine. The grapes were imported from Syria and Greece. The Egyptians ate a lot of fruits and vegetables. They also ate figs and dates. They would also eat pomegranates. They would also eat meat from the animals that were hunted by Egyptian hunters. And last but not least, here's the pomegranates, and here's an Egyptian banquet. Scribes are supposed to be in here somewhere with the nobles. We're going off. There was a job in ancient Egypt called the priest. The priest would make offerings at temples and also help with an embalming a mummy. He was in charge of everything to deal with mummies except for covering the body in atron and possibly the incision. When someone died, the priest would help first pull out the brain with a special tool called the brain hook. Then he'd clean out the mouth and fill it with some nice smelling lining. That's what the mummy would look like at the end. That's the priest. And also remove the 4 organs that are supposed to be in jars called canopic jars. Lungs, liver, stomach, and intestines. These are the 4 sons of Horus for the canopic jars. Each jar would go to a different temple. The priest then sewed up the incision that was made. We do not know who made the incision, so therefore we cannot claim the priest or the embalmer made the incision. That's the jackal mask of Varanus. There was a man in charge of everything and anything. These are the 3 crowns the man would wear. The man was a pharaoh. The pharaoh is the ruler of the kingdom that he owns. The pharaoh would be in charge of the peasants and all of the people in the land. People think he is God. He ought to have a bunch of palaces dotted all over his land. Just like I told you before, these are his crowns. That's the Nemes. That's his war crown. That's the crown of that signifies he is the king of both Upper and Lower Egypt. The end. These are two archaeologists and one Egyptian dude inside a pyramid, and there's an Egyptian curse. Here's a solid stone door. I hope you liked this presentation. This was a funny picture I found on the internet. Credit pictures done by Camden Phillips.
We'll do a chain. Ready? Oh, I should have gone for that.